You know that moment when the universe decides it hasn't messed with your life enough? The one where it pauses its cosmic shenanigans, takes a deep breath, and declares, "You know what? Let's dial up the absurdity to 11." Yeah, I found out the universe is practically a distant, slightly unhinged relative of my husband. More specifically, it was the moment I stumbled upon the digital equivalent of a smoking gun, a concert ticket confirmation in Mark's email, addressed not to me, his lawfully wedded wife, but to a certain Tiffany Dubois. Tiffany, for those of you not keeping score at home, was the ex. The one he swore was ancient history, a mistake. A phase I went through in college when I thought frosted tips were a good idea. Apparently, some phases just have a really long shelf life, like that questionable fruitcake your aunt brings every Christmas. I remember staring at the screen, not with the expected rush of tears or the dramatic collapse onto the kitchen floor that rom-coms would have you believe. No, my initial reaction was a slow, deliberate blink, then another. My brain, usually a bustling metropolis of anxieties and grocery lists, went completely silent. It was like a server crash, but instead of an error message, I just saw Tiffany Dubois, VIP seating, the Flaming Dragons concert, next Saturday. The Flaming Dragons, mind you, were our band. The band we saw on our first date. The band whose lyrics he'd drunkenly serenaded me with at our wedding. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. And I hate toast. My first coherent thought, after the initial system reboot, was, well, isn't that just precious? Not, how could he? Or, my life is over. But precious. Because what else do you call a man who plans a romantic rendezvous with his ex at a concert that holds significant meaning for his current marriage? It wasn't just cheating. It was a performance art piece. A low-budget, highly offensive off-Broadway production of How to Be a Complete and Utter Cad. And I, apparently, was the unwitting understudy who just got replaced without a single rehearsal. I leaned against the counter, the cool granite a stark contrast to the slow burn starting in my chest. It wasn't rage, not exactly. It was more like a simmering, highly concentrated sense of comedic outrage, like watching a clown trip on his own oversized shoes, but the clown is your husband and the shoes are your shared future, and he's definitely not getting up. I mean, seriously? The Flaming Dragons? Did he think I wouldn't notice? Did he think I'd just assume he was going to a monster truck rally dressed in a band t-shirt? The sheer audacity, the blatant disregard for my existence, was almost admirable in its boneheadedness. Almost. I scrolled down, just to confirm. Yes, 2 tickets. Section 103, Row F, seats 11 and 12. Prime viewing. Because if you're going to rekindle an old flame, you might as well do it with a clear view of the stage and excellent acoustics. I imagined them, swaying to Burning Love, maybe sharing a knowing glance during Ashes to Ashes. The mental image was so absurd, so cliché it almost made me snort laugh. Almost. Because beneath the layers of sarcasm and the rising tide of dark humor, there was a tiny, inconvenient spark of something else. Something that felt suspiciously like hurt. But we don't dwell on that. We package it up, tie a sarcastic bow on it, and prepare it for public consumption. My husband, Mark, walked in then, whistling some tuneless melody. He was oblivious, of course. Utterly, gloriously, infuriatingly oblivious. He probably thought he was a master of espionage, a modern-day James Bond of marital deceit. In reality, he was more like Inspector Clouseau, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs so obvious even a blind squirrel with a concussion could follow them. He tossed his keys on the counter, flashed that charming, slightly dimpled smile that had once, long ago, melted my heart. Now it just looked like a poorly executed special effect. "Hey, honey," he chirped, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. "Long day. Anything exciting happen?" I looked at him, truly looked at him. The man I'd shared a bed with for 10 years, built a life with, argued about dishwashers with, and here he was, planning a secret date with his ex. The sheer banality of his betrayal was almost more insulting than the act itself. It wasn't some grand, passionate affair. It was a concert, like a bad sitcom plot. "Oh, you know," I said, my voice surprisingly level. Just discovered some interesting plans for next Saturday. Seems like someone's going to the Flaming Dragons. I watched his face. The apple paused halfway to his mouth. His eyes, usually a placid blue, darted around like trapped birds. The color drained from his face faster than a politician's integrity. "Oh, yeah," he stammered, recovering with the grace of a drunken giraffe. "Forgot to mention. Work thing. Client entertainment. You know how it is. Last minute." I raised an eyebrow. "Client entertainment? With Tiffany Dubois?" The apple dropped, bounced once, and rolled under the fridge. A fitting metaphor, I thought. His carefully constructed lie, now under the fridge, gathering dust bunnies of deceit. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, if the headlights were actually a freight train labeled, "Your wife knows everything." "Tiffany? Who's Tiffany?" he tried, a pathetic attempt at gaslighting that would have made a toddler roll their eyes. I just smiled. A slow, sweet, utterly terrifying smile. "Oh, you know, the Tiffany. The one who's apparently sitting in section 103, row F, seat 12, next Saturday night. While you're in seat 11. I paused, letting the words hang in the air like a noxious gas. "Funny, I thought our seats were usually in section 102. Guess you got a promotion, huh?" He stood there, mouth agape, looking less like a husband and more like a poorly rendered wax figure of a husband. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable, punctuated only by the distant hum of the refrigerator. It was the sound of a marriage imploding, not with a bang, but with the whimper of a man caught red-handed with concert tickets. And in that moment, as I watched his pathetic attempts to conjure a believable lie, a thought solidified in my mind. A truly magnificent, utterly deranged thought. If he wanted to go to the Flaming Dragons concert with an ex, then by all means he would. But he wouldn't be the only one bringing an unexpected +1. Because apparently I wasn't just invisible, I was also transparent enough for him to see right through me and straight into the arms of his past. Well, darling, transparency works both ways, and sometimes it comes with a surprise guest. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a cold, calculating clarity. Mark, my dear, sweet, utterly clueless husband, had managed to turn our 10-year marriage into a punchline. And I, being the benevolent, long-suffering wife, felt it was my civic duty to ensure the joke landed. Hard. He'd tried to gaslight me, to make me doubt my own eyes, my own intelligence. "Who's Tiffany?" he'd asked, as if she were a mythical creature, a unicorn of infidelity. My internal monologue, however, was already drafting the eulogy for his social standing. Here lies Mark's reputation, died of acute stupidity, complicated by chronic infidelity, buried under a mountain of concert tickets. The days leading up to the concert became a masterclass in passive-aggressive performance art. Mark walked on eggshells, stammering apologies that sounded less like remorse and more like a poorly rehearsed hostage negotiation. "It's just a work thing, Sarah. An old friend from college. Networking, you know?" Oh, I knew. I knew that networking in his dictionary meant rekindling old flames under the guise of professional development. I'd just nod, offer a tight, enigmatic smile, and then hum a Flaming Dragons song off-key while doing the dishes. He'd flinch. It was glorious. Meanwhile, my mind was a beehive of activity, buzzing with possibilities. The first step, naturally, was to secure my own tickets. Not just any tickets, mind you. Tickets in section 103, row F, as close to seats 11 and 12 as humanly possible. I wanted a front row seat to the implosion, a ringside view of the karmic fireworks. It took some doing, a little creative refreshing of the ticket vendor's website, and perhaps a slightly unethical use of a bot, but I managed it. Seats 9 and 10. Perfect. Just 2 seats away. Close enough to hear the whispers, to see the subtle shifts in their body language, to witness the precise moment their faces registered pure, unadulterated horror. But tickets were only half the equation. The real genius, the true pièce de résistance, lay in the +1. Mark was bringing his ex. What was the logical, most exquisitely painful countermove? Bringing her current husband. Because if I was being made a fool of, then by all means, let's expand the audience. And here I thought my biggest talent was making gourmet toast. Turns out, it was orchestrating public humiliation with surgical precision. Finding Tiffany's husband wasn't as hard as it sounds. Social media, bless its intrusive little heart, is a treasure trove of information. A quick dive into Tiffany's public profiles revealed a plethora of smiling selfies with a man named David. David, by all accounts, seemed like a perfectly pleasant, unsuspecting fellow. He was an accountant, according to his LinkedIn profile, which meant he probably appreciated order, logic, and the meticulous balancing of books. I imagined he'd be particularly perturbed by the sudden imbalance in his marital ledger. The tricky part was contacting him. How do you casually slide into someone's DMs with, "Hey, your wife is secretly meeting my husband at a concert. Want to crash their party?" It required finesse. It required a touch of dramatic flair. It required a complete disregard for social norms. All things I was surprisingly adept at, especially when fueled by a potent cocktail of indignation and dark amusement. I found his work email. Professional. Direct. Less likely to be ignored than a random Instagram message. I crafted the email with the care of a master chef preparing a poisoned dish. Subject: regarding the Flaming Dragons concert, urgent and confidential. Dear Mr. Miller, I began, keeping it formal. My name is Sarah Thompson. I am writing to you under unusual circumstances regarding your wife, Tiffany Dubois, and my husband, Mark Thompson. I recently discovered that they have made plans to attend the Flaming Dragons concert this Saturday, July 26th, at the Arena, in Section 103, Row F, Seats 11 and 12. As you can imagine, this information has come as quite a surprise to me, given my marital status to Mark. I believe you may find this information equally illuminating. I have also secured tickets in the same row, just 2 seats away, seats 9 and 10. I understand this may be shocking, but I believe it is important that you are aware of this situation. I would be open to discussing this further, should you wish to gain a clearer understanding of the circumstances. My number is my number. I reread it. Professional, factual, no accusations, just cold, hard data. It was a digital hand grenade, primed and ready. I hit send. Then I held my breath. For approximately 3 minutes before my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. David. Ms. Thompson. His voice was tight, strained. This is David Miller. I just received your email. Mr. Miller, I replied, adopting my most soothing yet slightly ominous tone. Thank you for calling. I apologize for the unconventional approach, but I felt it was necessary. He cleared his throat. Necessary? You're telling me my wife is going to a concert with your husband? Her ex? There was a rising incredulity in his voice, a hint of the storm brewing beneath the surface. That is precisely what I am telling you, Mr. Miller, and not just any concert. The Flaming Dragons, a band with sentimental value to my husband and me. I let that sink in, the implication of a shared past now being desecrated. I don't understand, he stammered. Tiffany said she was going with her sister, a girls' night out. Ah, the classic girls' night out, I mused. A timeless alibi, much like working late or my phone died. Very original. I paused. Look, Mr. Miller, I'm not looking for drama, just clarity. And perhaps a bit of company. I have 2 tickets right next to theirs. I was planning on going, regardless. The question is, would you care to join me? For moral support, of course. And perhaps to witness a truly spectacular act of marital stupidity unfold in real time. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could practically hear his brain whirring, processing the sheer audacity of my proposal. Then, a slow, deliberate sigh. You want me to crash their date? With you? Crash implies a lack of invitation, I corrected him. Consider it a strategic deployment, a tactical intervention. We'd simply be enjoying the music and the show, the one on stage and the one unfolding in row F. Another pause. Then a low chuckle, a dry, slightly unhinged sound that resonated with my own brand of humor. You know what, Ms. Thompson? You've got yourself a deal. What time should I meet you? My plan was so subtle it practically whispered surprise from a megaphone. The anticipation was a delicious, slow-burning fire in my gut. I spent the next few days perfecting my "I'm just here for the music" face, which involved a slight smirk and an almost imperceptible twitch of the eyebrow. Mark, bless his oblivious heart, continued to act like a man who had successfully hidden a small elephant in our living room. He'd ask me about my day, completely unaware that my day involved orchestrating his public downfall. It was truly a testament to his self-absorption. The night of the concert arrived, cloaked in the humid embrace of a late summer evening. I dressed meticulously, not in a revenge dress. Those are for people who still care about looking good for their ex. No, I chose an outfit that screamed comfortably chic, utterly unbothered, and possibly slightly amused by the impending chaos. A flowing dark top, tailored jeans, and a pair of sensible yet stylish ankle boots. My hair was casually tossed, my makeup minimal but sharp. I wanted to look like I'd just popped out for a casual evening, not like I was about to detonate a marital bomb. David arrived promptly at the designated meeting spot, a coffee shop a few blocks from the arena. He was taller than I expected, with kind eyes that currently held a mixture of apprehension and a nascent spark of mischief. He looked like a man who usually spent his evenings poring over spreadsheets, not embarking on covert operations. "Ms. Thompson?" he greeted, extending a hand. His grip was firm. "Sarah, please," I replied, shaking his hand. "And you must be David. Thanks for coming. I promise. This will be memorable." He offered a wry smile. "I'm hoping for memorable in a good story to tell the grandkids way, not a therapy for the rest of my life way." "Oh, definitely the former," I assured him, though I couldn't make any guarantees. "Consider this an exercise in extreme reality television. You're a guest star. I'm the executive producer." We walked towards the arena, the air thick with the murmur of excited fans and the distant thrum of the soundcheck. The energy was palpable, a perfect backdrop for the drama about to unfold. I felt a strange sense of calm, a quiet confidence that bordered on exhilaration. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about reclaiming my narrative. It was about turning their pathetic little secret into a spectacle. "So," David began, breaking the silence, "what's the game plan? Do we just walk in and sit down?" "Precisely," I said, a mischievous glint in my eye. "The element of surprise is key. We want to catch them completely off guard. No grand entrance, no dramatic pronouncements. Just a quiet, unassuming arrival, like a particularly annoying yet inevitable tax audit." He chuckled. "You've thought this through." "Oh, David," I sighed dramatically. "I've thought through every excruciating detail. My plan was so discreet, it practically whispered surprise from a megaphone. I've even practiced my "oh, fancy meeting you here" face. It's a work in progress, but I think I've nailed the perfect blend of feigned innocence and simmering malice. We navigated the throngs of people, the scent of popcorn and stale beer filling the air. As we approached Section 103, my heart gave a little flutter. Not of nerves, but of anticipation. It was like the final moments before the curtain rises on a play you've spent weeks rehearsing. "Okay," I whispered to David. "They should be right there. Row F." And there they were. Mark, looking smug and self-satisfied, leaning in close to Tiffany, who was laughing, her head thrown back. They looked comfortable, too comfortable. A wave of something akin to nausea washed over me, quickly followed by a surge of renewed determination. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about David, too, and the principle of the thing. "Ready?" I murmured to David. He took a deep breath, "As I'll ever be." We moved into the row, slowly, deliberately. Mark and Tiffany were engrossed in their conversation, oblivious to the two figures approaching from the side. We reached our seats, 2 spaces away from them. I took my seat first, then David. I kept my gaze fixed on the stage, pretending to adjust my purse, giving them a moment to register our presence. Then, slowly, I turned my head. My eyes landed on Mark first. His back was to me, but I could feel the shift in the air. Tiffany, however, was facing our direction, mid-laugh. Her eyes, still sparkling with amusement, suddenly widened. Her smile faltered, then vanished. Her jaw went slack. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight. "Well, hello there," I said, my voice sweet as poisoned candy. "Fancy meeting you here." Tiffany's head snapped towards Mark, her eyes screaming. Mark, sensing the sudden shift in the atmosphere, turned. His eyes met mine. The color drained from his face faster than a bathtub full of secrets. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like a goldfish, gasping for air. Then his gaze shifted to David. David, who was now offering a polite, if somewhat strained, smile. "Tiffany," David said, his voice calm, almost unnervingly so. "Didn't realize you were a Flaming Dragons fan. You said you were going with your sister." The silence that followed was so profound, you could hear the collective gasp of every single one of my internal organs. Mark looked from me to David, then back to Tiffany, his eyes darting wildly, searching for an escape route that didn't exist. Tiffany, meanwhile, had gone from pale to a shade of green, usually reserved for alien invasions. Her face was a masterpiece of mortification. "David? Sarah?" Mark finally managed, his voice a strangled whisper. What are you two doing here?" "Oh, you know," I said, leaning back in my seat, a picture of casual indifference. "Just enjoying the music. And the company. David here is a big fan of the Dragons, aren't you, David?" David nodded, his smile widening, a hint of genuine amusement now playing on his lips. "Absolutely. And it's always nice to have company at a concert, especially when you're unexpectedly reunited with old friends." He emphasized unexpectedly, with a subtle, yet devastating flick of his eyes towards Tiffany. Tiffany looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole, preferably with Mark still attached to her arm. She tried to whisper something to Mark, but he was too busy staring at me, then at David, then back at me, as if trying to solve a particularly difficult math problem involving two uninvited guests and a very public betrayal. The band started their first song, a roaring anthem that usually got the crowd on their feet. But in our little corner of Section 103, the only thing roaring was the tension. Mark and Tiffany remained frozen, their faces a tableau of shock and horror. I, on the other hand, was swaying gently to the music, a beatific smile on my face. David, after a moment of awkward silence, started tapping his foot, a small, defiant gesture. "So," I said, turning to Mark, my voice just loud enough to be heard over the music, "this must be that client entertainment you were talking about. Very intimate client, wouldn't you say?" Mark flinched. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Tiffany, meanwhile, was attempting to shrink into her seat, as if hoping to become one with the upholstery. "You know," David chimed in, equally calmly, "Tiffany told me she was going with her sister. Funny how these things work out, isn't it? Small world." The irony was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife, or a very sharp, well-aimed glare. Mark finally found his voice, a desperate plea. "Sarah, can we talk about this later? Not here." "Oh, darling," I purred. "Where else? This is where you chose to make your grand statement. Seems only fair we have our little family reunion right here, in front of God and everyone who paid good money for these tickets." The band launched into their second song, a power ballad about heartbreak and betrayal. The lyrics seemed to mock them, echoing their predicament with a cruel, poetic precision. I never thought a few strategically placed concert tickets could cause such a public meltdown. And here I thought only rock stars did that. The concert was a blur of flashing lights, roaring music, and the silent, excruciating drama unfolding in our row. Mark and Tiffany were trapped. They couldn't leave without drawing even more attention, and they couldn't stay without enduring the silent, mocking presence of their respective spouses. Every attempt they made to whisper, to argue, to even glance at each other, was met with my serene smile or David's polite yet knowing nod. At one point, Mark tried to get up, presumably to escape to the concession stand or, ideally, to another dimension. But I just casually extended my leg, blocking his path. "Oh, are you leaving, dear? Already?" The flaming dragons are just getting warmed up. He sank back into his seat, defeated. Tiffany, meanwhile, looked like she was actively trying to phase through the floor. The sheer, unadulterated pleasure of watching them squirm was almost better than the concert itself. Almost. David, to his credit, was a fantastic co-conspirator. He'd occasionally lean over and make a perfectly innocuous comment, like, "Great guitar solo, isn't it?" directed at Tiffany, who would just nod stiffly, her eyes wide with panic. Or he'd ask Mark, "So, Mark, still into the classics, huh? Thought you'd moved on to more contemporary sounds." The subtext was so loud, it practically needed its own microphone. During the intermission, the crowd around us started to disperse for refreshments. Mark saw his chance. He leaned over, his voice low and urgent. "Sarah, please. This is insane. Let's just go home. We can talk." "Talk?" I raised an eyebrow. "Darling, we've had 10 years to talk, and somehow, in that time, you managed to forget who your +1 to the Flaming Dragons concert was supposed to be. I think we're beyond talking. We're in the experiential learning phase now." Tiffany, emboldened by the slightly emptier row, finally spoke, her voice a strained whisper. "David, this is a misunderstanding. Mark and I were just catching up." David turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Catching up? At a rock concert? With VIP seats? You know, Tiffany, my accountant's brain struggles with that kind of catching up. It doesn't quite balance the books." His calm demeanor was far more terrifying than any outburst. It was the quiet disappointment of a man who dealt in facts and figures, now confronted with a glaring, illogical lie. Mark, sensing the tide turning against him, tried to pull rank. "David, this is a private matter between my wife and me." "Oh, it stopped being private the moment you invited someone else's wife to a concert," I interjected, my voice sweet. "And it became a public spectacle the moment I bought tickets 2 seats away. Consider this a live performance of our marital issues. We're just providing a little extra entertainment for the crowd." A few people in the rows behind us, who had clearly been enjoying the silent drama unfolding, snickered. Mark's face turned a deeper shade of crimson. Tiffany looked like she was about to spontaneously combust. It was glorious. Truly. The second half of the concert was even more excruciating for them. They barely spoke, barely moved. Mark kept glancing at his watch, clearly counting down the minutes until their public torment was over. Tiffany had resorted to staring fixedly at the stage, as if the lead singer held the answers to all her life's regrets. David and I, on the other hand, were having a grand old time. We even shared a bag of overpriced popcorn, exchanging knowing glances and silent, triumphant smiles. When the final encore finished and the house lights came up, the relief on Mark and Tiffany's faces was palpable. They practically bolted from their seats, pushing past us with mumbled apologies that sounded more like desperate pleas for escape. "Well," I said, standing up and stretching, "that was quite the show, wasn't it?" David chuckled, a genuine hearty laugh this time. "Indeed, a truly unforgettable performance." He looked at me, a newfound respect in his eyes. "You know, Ms. Thompson, I've always been a fan of efficiency, and that, right there, was remarkably efficient." "Sarah," I corrected him, a genuine smile finally breaking through my carefully constructed facade. "And thank you, David. You were an excellent co-star." We walked out of the arena, leaving Mark and Tiffany to their awkward public reckoning. The air outside was cooler, the night sky a vast and different canvas. The crowds dispersed, their excited chatter fading into the distance. My phone buzzed. It was Mark. I ignored it. Then again, and again. He was probably having a meltdown of epic proportions, and frankly, I was too busy enjoying the fresh air and the sweet taste of vindication. David walked me to my car. "So," he said, hands in his pockets, "what happens now?" "Now," I replied, opening my car door, "we go home. And they get to figure out how to explain this little client entertainment to their respective spouses. I imagine it'll be quite the conversation." He nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I suppose it will." He paused, then looked at me. "Thank you, Sarah. Seriously, I had no idea." "You're welcome, David," I said, a genuine warmth in my voice. Sometimes the best way to deal with a messy situation is to make it even messier, and then stand back and watch the fireworks. We exchanged numbers, not for a romantic rendezvous, but for a mutual support group of the recently enlightened, a shared understanding of the ridiculousness of it all. As I drove home, the city lights blurred into streaks of color. The anger, the hurt, the indignation. They were still there, but they were no longer overwhelming. They were tempered by a profound sense of satisfaction and a healthy dose of dark humor. The house was dark when I arrived. Mark was probably still out, either trying to track down Tiffany or drowning his sorrows in a very large, very public glass of something strong. I didn't care. I walked into the quiet living room, kicked off my shoes, and sank onto the sofa. The silence was no longer oppressive. It was liberating. I pulled out my phone. Mark had left 5 voicemails, each one more frantic than the last. I deleted them all without listening. Then I opened my social media. A new message request. From David. Just got home. Tiffany is speechless. Literally. Thank you again. Best concert ever. I smiled. The next few days were a whirlwind of hushed conversations, awkward silences, and the slow, painful unraveling of a decade-long marriage. Mark tried to apologize, to explain, to beg for forgiveness, but his words were hollow, echoing in the cavernous space that had once been our trust. I just listened, my expression neutral, occasionally offering a sarcastic comment that would make him flinch. "Oh, you're sorry? I thought you were just practicing your client entertainment skills." The divorce was surprisingly swift, mostly because Mark was too mortified to put up much of a fight. The details are boring, filled with legal jargon and the division of assets. What wasn't boring was the look on his face when he realized the true cost of his harmless little concert date. Socially, he was a pariah. His friends, many of whom were mutual, found his behavior less than admirable. His colleagues, who had heard whispers of the concert incident, treated him with a mixture of pity and thinly veiled amusement. I never imagined a signature on a piece of paper would make so many grown men pale, and no one was even into art. Turns out, public humiliation is a surprisingly effective deterrent. Tiffany and David's situation was equally messy. I heard through the grapevine that their marriage was on life support, gasping its last breaths. Good. Karma, it turns out, has excellent seating arrangements. My new normal was surprisingly normal and peaceful. I wasn't a victim. I was a survivor with a wicked sense of humor. I learned that being invisible can be a superpower, especially when you're planning a grand reveal. I started going to concerts again, but this time, with friends who actually wanted to be there, and I learned to trust my gut, even when it was telling me something utterly ridiculous. In the end, I learned that some concerts are less about the music and more about the unexpected encore of karma. My life wasn't a tragedy. It was a dark comedy, and I was finally the one writing the punchlines. Turns out, the best seat in the house was the one where I got to watch their faces fall. And that, my friends, was a symphony. Turns out, the best home security system isn't from ADT. It's watching your husband have a complete meltdown when he finds one camera and realizes there might be 23 more. Spoiler alert, there were only 18. But why ruin his panic with accuracy? I'm Marin, and let me paint you a picture. Tuesday morning, October 7th, I'm sitting in the Starbucks on Route 59, because where else does a suburban wife go to watch her marriage implode? Sipping a venti caramel macchiato that cost more than my therapist's copay. Which is ironic, because this coffee is doing more for my mental health than 6 months of, and how does that make you feel, ever did. My divorce attorney, Patricia Landry, a woman who charges $450 an hour and is worth every penny, unlike my husband, sits across from me, occasionally glancing at my screen and making notes on her legal pad with the kind of satisfied smile that says she's already calculating her boat upgrade. On my phone, my husband Royce is tearing through our 4-bedroom suburban palace in Naperville like he's auditioning for a remake of The Fugitive. He's ripping paintings off walls, checking behind curtains, even, and this is my personal favorite, shaking that ridiculous regional sales champion trophy he won 3 years ago and insisted on displaying like it was the Stanley Cup. Because nothing says I'm a winner, quite like a participation trophy for selling logistics services and a side piece collection. Marin! He's screaming at absolutely nobody because I'm 3 miles away drinking overpriced coffee and living my best life. How long have these been here? What did you see? Everything, baby. I saw everything. And let me tell you, the production value was terrible. Zero chemistry, terrible dialogue, would not recommend. But let's back up, because this hot mess didn't start with hidden cameras and public humiliation. It started way more boring than that, with a lingerie receipt in a pants pocket on a random Monday in late August. Because apparently, my husband's idea of covering his tracks was about as effective as his performance reviews. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Well, I was. Now I'm more of a strategic domestic engineer turned amateur surveillance specialist, but we'll get to that. For 12 years, I did the whole suburban dream thing. Soccer mom carpool, PTA meetings where Karen from Elmhurst always has opinions about the fundraiser, meal prep on Sundays, and pretending to care about which other families made it into the country club. You know, living the dream. The American Dream TM. Brought to you by Denial and Wine O'Clock. We lived in one of those gated communities where everyone's lawn looks like it's been individually manicured by tiny perfectionists with scissors, and the biggest scandal is usually someone's Ring doorbell catching teenagers toilet papering houses on Halloween. Plot twist, my Ring doorbell caught something way more interesting than teenagers. It caught a middle-aged man speed-running his midlife crisis. Royce and I got married youngish. I was 26, he was 29, and popped out 2 kids in quick succession because that's what you do when you're in love and stupid. Tessa's 10 now, all attitude and eye rolls, training to be a professional preteen. Cleo's 7, still believes in Santa, and thinks I'm the coolest person alive. At least someone does. 1 out of 3 ain't bad. Royce worked in logistics, regional manager, big title, decent salary, company car, the whole suburban dad starter pack. He traveled sometimes, or so he said, but mostly worked late at the office. And by late, I mean 3, sometimes 4 nights a week he'd roll in around 11:30, smelling like cologne I didn't buy him, and excuses I stopped believing months ago. The man had more supply chain emergencies than FedEx during the holiday season. I'm pretty sure at one point, he forgot what industry he was even in. Sorry, babe. Had to handle a critical shipment situation. Sir, you manage regional accounts from a desk. The only thing you're shipping is lies. I'm not stupid. Well, okay. Maybe I was stupid for 12 years. But there's a difference between being trusting and being blind. And somewhere around June, I crossed that line hard enough to leave skid marks. Little things started adding up. New gym membership he never used. Shocking. Suddenly caring about skincare like he was auditioning for a Neutrogena commercial, buying clothes without me, and, the kicker, password protecting his phone after a decade of leaving it on the kitchen counter like it was community property. But I'm a good suburban wife. I smiled. I packed his lunches with those little notes that say, "Have a great day," while internally screaming. I played the part. Meanwhile, I was doing mental calculus that would make a NASA engineer proud, trying to figure out what was happening in my own house. Turns out, a lot. A lot. Then came the receipt. Monday, August 25th. I'm doing laundry, because apparently my college degree in marketing from Northwestern prepared me perfectly for sorting darks from lights and checking pockets for evidence of infidelity. They really should add that to the curriculum. Marketing 401. Detecting bullshit in domestic settings. I check the pockets before throwing his work pants in the washer. Pro tip, always check pockets. You'll either find money or evidence. This time, evidence that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. La Perla. You know, that lingerie brand where a single bra costs more than my monthly grocery budget and makes Victoria's Secret look like a dollar store. Receipt dated August 23rd. Saturday. The Saturday he said he was at the office catching up on quarterly reports. Right. Because nothing says quarterly reports like a lingerie boutique in Oak Brook. Item, black lace teddy. Size XS. I'm a size medium on a good day. Large if I've been stress-eating Girl Scout cookies, which I had been, because something about your marriage falling apart makes Thin Mints taste like therapy. XS is code for definitely not your wife. XS is what you buy for someone who survives on kale smoothies and delusion. I stood there in my laundry room, the same laundry room where I'd folded this man's underwear for over a decade, the same laundry room where I'd scrubbed out stains I didn't want to think about, holding a receipt for lingerie I'd never seen, in a size I'd never wear, purchased on a day he'd lied about. And I thought, so this is what rock bottom looks like. Unfinished basement, fluorescent lighting, and the faint smell of Tide Pods mixed with betrayal. Most women would have confronted their husband right there. Tears, accusations, thrown dishes, the whole daytime TV special. Not me. I'm strategic. My dad used to say, "Marin, you're the kind of person who'd plan a picnic during a hurricane and somehow make it work." He meant it as a compliment. Turns out, it also applies to revenge. So I made a plan. A beautiful, terrible, legally sound plan. September 1st, Labor Day, which felt cosmically appropriate for the amount of work I was about to put in, I drove to Best Buy with Cleo. Told her we were getting supplies for her school project. Technically true. The school project was How Daddy Destroyed Our Family, a multimedia presentation. She got an A. Just kidding. She doesn't know yet. But when she does, easy A. I bought 18 mini wireless cameras, the kind that connect to your phone, have night vision, motion detection, and are small enough to hide literally anywhere. God bless America and their tech section. This is why we won the Cold War. The pimply teenager working the tech section tried to upsell me on the 19-camera bundle. "You get one free," he said, gesturing at a display like he was offering me the deal of a lifetime. "Trust me," I told him, loading my cart like I was preparing for the apocalypse. 18 is plenty for what I'm planning. He looked confused, probably thought I was paranoid about burglars. Sweet summer child. The call was coming from inside the house. I didn't elaborate. Some things suburban moms don't explain to teenagers at Best Buy, like how I was about to turn my home into the world's most depressing reality show. Over the next week, I installed those cameras like I was preparing for a home invasion, which, in a way, I was, just from the inside. Behind the living room painting of the Chicago skyline Royce's mother gave us as a wedding present. Ironic, since she's about to hate me. Inside the decorative vase in the kitchen that held fake flowers because I killed real ones. Much like Royce was killing our marriage. On the bookshelf in his home office, tucked behind the business books he bought to look smart but never read, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Guess infidelity wasn't one of them. In the master bedroom, camouflaged in the smoke detector, because if anything was on fire, it was this marriage. Even inside the mouth of that stupid trophy. Regional sales champion. Champion of what exactly? Adultery? Every room, every angle, every corner of our supposedly happy home. I became a surveillance expert. NSA would have been impressed. Then I waited, and watched, and collected footage that would make a reality TV producer weep with joy and quit their job out of jealousy because they could never script something this good. 3 weeks of footage. 21 days of my husband turning our home into his personal bachelor pad while I played chauffeur to dance classes and helped with homework. You know, living the dream. The nightmare dream. The American nightmare TM. The first week, I almost convinced myself I was paranoid. Maybe the receipt was a gift for me he hadn't given yet. Maybe his late nights really were work emergencies. Maybe I was just a suspicious wife with too much time and a Best Buy credit card burning a hole in my purse. Maybe pigs could fly, and my mother-in-law would finally admit I make a decent pot roast. Then Tuesday, September 9th happened, and reality hit me like a Target shopping cart pushed by an angry toddler. I was at Target, because where else would a suburban mom be at 2 in the afternoon? Living the high life, comparing Greek yogurt brands like it was a life-or-death decision. Chobani or Phage? The eternal question. Certainly more important than my crumbling marriage, right? My phone buzzed, motion detected in the living room. I clicked the notification, expecting to see our cat, Mr. Whiskers, knocking something over like the tiny anarchist he is. Instead, I saw my husband. At 2:15 on a Tuesday, when he was supposed to be in a critical meeting with the distribution center in Rockford. Rockford. That's 2 hours away. Yet there he was, in our living room, approximately 0 hours away from making the worst decision of his life. He wasn't alone. The woman with him was blonde, petite, definitely XS lingerie size, called it, and wearing yoga pants so tight they looked painted on. You know the type. Looks like she drinks green juice for breakfast and calls it self-care while ruining other people's lives. Namaste, homewrecker. They were on my couch. My cream-colored couch from Pottery Barn that I specifically chose because it was family-friendly and stain-resistant. Well, it was about to get tested in ways the manufacturer definitely didn't intend. I should write them a review. Great for kids and infidelity. 5 stars. I stood there in the yogurt aisle, watching my marriage disintegrate in real time on a 5-inch screen. And here's the thing nobody tells you about catching your spouse cheating. Your first thought isn't sadness. It's not even anger. It's pure, unfiltered logistics. Did he seriously bring her to our house? Where our children sleep? Where we have family photos on every wall? Is he trying to get caught, or is he just that stupid? Spoiler. He was that stupid. A woman pushing a cart past me said, "Excuse me, hun, you're blocking the Chobani." Of course I was blocking the Chobani. My entire life was blocking the Chobani. "Sorry," I mumbled, moving aside like a well-trained suburban zombie. I bought the yogurt. Greek. Phage. 0% fat, because apparently I was trying to be healthy while my life fell apart. Drove home in a daze, mentally calculating how much this divorce was going to cost him. Spoiler alert, a lot. When Royce came home that night at 11:45, new record, someone give this man a medal for creative time management. I was in bed, pretending to sleep, iPad hidden under my pillow, still watching footage from earlier, just replaying the hits, really marinating in the betrayal. "Hey babe," he whispered, kissing my forehead like he was husband of the year. "Sorry I'm late. Supply chain nightmare. The audacity. The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated, weaponized audacity of this man. Sir, the only supply chain nightmare here is you supplying lies and I'm the one having nightmares." I mumbled something incoherent and turned over. He showered, washing off evidence, how thoughtful, really considerate, and climbed into bed like he hadn't spent the afternoon violating every wedding vow we'd made at that overpriced venue in Oak Brook that cost more than a small car. But it got worse. So much worse. Because apparently, my husband wasn't just a cheater, he was an overachiever. September 18th, Thursday. I'm at Tessa's parent-teacher conference, where her teacher, Mrs. Morrison, tells me my daughter is academically gifted but socially challenging, which is teacher code for, "Your kid's smart but kind of mean to other kids." Wonder where she gets that from. Definitely not from her father, who's winning awards in meanness. Another notification hits my phone. Living room, motion detected, 4:30 p.m. I excused myself, claimed I needed to take an urgent call, which was true, just not the kind of call Mrs. Morrison was imagining, and stepped into the school hallway that smelled like floor wax and crushed dreams. Pulled up the camera feed. Royce again. Punctual guy. Really committed to his schedule. But different woman this time. This one I recognized immediately. Dark hair, expensive highlights that probably cost more than my grocery budget. That superior smirk I'd seen across countless family dinners. Simone, my sister-in-law, married to Royce's brother Marcus for 8 years. Mother of 2 boys, Theo and Liam. PTA president. Volunteers at the church food drive. Has a live, laugh, love sign in her kitchen and quotes Bible verses on Facebook like she's auditioning for a Christian lifestyle brand. Turns out, the only thing she loves more than Jesus is my husband. And the only scripture she follows is, "Thou shalt covet thy brother-in-law." They were drinking wine. My wine. The good bottle of Pinot Noir I'd been saving from our Napa trip 2 years ago. The trip where Royce complained the entire time about the cost. $400 for wine, Marin? Really? Yes, Royce. Really. And now you're drinking it with your brother's wife. Hope it tastes like betrayal and regret. I watched Simone laugh at something Royce said, touch his arm, lean in closer. The intimate body language of two people who'd done this before, many times before. They had a whole routine, probably had inside jokes, maybe even a song. My brain did that thing where it catalogs everything at once. Every family barbecue where she'd hugged me and called me sister. Every Christmas where we'd exchanged gifts. She got me a candle last year. Blessed, it said. How appropriate. Every time she'd said, "We're so lucky to have you in the family," with that smile that I'd thought was genuine, but now realized was probably just smug superiority. The woman who told me last Thanksgiving that marriage is sacred was apparently treating sacred like a suggestion, not a commandment. More like a guideline, a loose framework. Marriage is sacred until it's inconvenient, I guess. Mrs. Morrison poked her head into the hallway. "Mrs. T-Bowl, everything okay?" "Just perfect," I said, sliding my phone into my purse with the calm of someone who'd just witnessed a car crash in slow motion. My husband's having an affair with his brother's wife in our living room, and my 10-year-old apparently needs to work on her empathy skills. So, typical Thursday, really hitting all the suburban mom bingo squares today. Her face went pale. What? Nothing. Sorry. Yes, I'll talk to Tessa about being nicer to the other students. Empathy. Got it. Ironic, really, since her father has the empathy of a parking meter. Can I get that reading list you mentioned? I got the reading list. Drove home. Made dinner. Tacos, because I was on autopilot and tacos are easy. Helped Cleo with her math homework. Fractions, which felt metaphorically appropriate given how my life was being divided into before and after. Put both girls to bed with stories about princesses and happy endings, which felt like cruel jokes the universe was playing on me. Poured myself a glass of wine. Different bottle, obviously, since Simone and Royce had finished the good stuff. And watched 3 more hours of footage from various cameras. It was like binge-watching the worst show on Netflix, except it was my life, and I couldn't cancel the subscription. The pattern became clear. Blonde yoga pants woman. Tuesdays and Thursdays, afternoon sessions, usually left by 4. Very punctual. Professional mistress behavior. Simone. Wednesdays and some Fridays, stayed later, more comfortable, clearly a longer-term arrangement. Probably had a key at this point. My husband was running a rotation schedule like he was managing his sales territory. Color-coded his affairs. Probably had them in his Outlook calendar with little reminder alerts. Tuesday, 2 p.m., quarterly review, translation, blonde woman. Wednesday, 3 p.m., strategic planning, translation, your sister-in-law. Friday, 5 p.m., team building, translation, whoever was available. The man who couldn't remember our anniversary was somehow managing a multi-affair operation with the efficiency of a Fortune 500 company. Incredible. Give this man a TED Talk. I started recognizing details that made everything worse. Simone used our master bathroom. I could see her coming out of it, fixing her lipstick in my mirror. The audacity. Blonde woman always left through the back door, like she was sneaking out of a heist movie. Very cloak and dagger. Very, I'm definitely not ruining a family right now. Royce would spray air freshener after they left, light the vanilla candle I kept on the mantle, erase the evidence like he was dismantling a crime scene. CSI. Suburban Betrayal. Coming this fall to CBS. The kicker? Friday, September 26th. I'm loading the dishwasher after dinner. Royce is working late again. What a shock. Someone alert the media. When Tessa asks, "Mom, why does Dad's friend keep coming over?" My hand froze on a plate. Time stopped. The universe paused. "What friend, sweetie?" "The blonde lady. I saw her leaving when you picked me up from Emma's house last week. She was coming out of our driveway, looked nervous, walked really fast." Cleo piped up from the table, where she was coloring what appeared to be a very angry princess. Daddy said she was a work colleague. He said not to mention it because you get stressed about his work stuff. Oh. So now we're coaching the children. Fantastic. Father of the year, everyone. Really setting a great example. I smiled. The same smile I'd perfected over 12 years of suburban domesticity. The smile that says, everything's fine, when everything is absolutely, categorically, spectacularly on fire. "That's nice of Daddy to not want to stress me out," I said, my voice steady enough to win an Oscar. "You're right. Work stuff is boring. Hey, who wants ice cream?" Both girls cheered. Crisis averted. Meanwhile, I was mentally calculating exactly how much child support and alimony I could squeeze out of this train wreck. Turns out, Illinois has great laws about infidelity. Who knew? That night, after the girls were asleep, I sat in the dark living room, the same room where I'd watched weeks of betrayal unfold like a really bad reality show, and made a list on my phone. Evidence collected, check. Emotionally prepared for nuclear option, check. Divorce attorney researched and contacted, check. Petty revenge plan that would destroy him socially, financially, and emotionally, in progress. Patricia Landry came highly recommended. "She's a shark," my friend Jennifer told me over mimosas. "Took her ex for everything except his kidneys, and I think she tried. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed. A shark, with legal credentials, 3 consultations, 1 retainer payment that made my eye twitch, and several very productive conversations later. I had a strategy, but I needed one more thing: timing. Because revenge is a dish best served with perfect timing and a side of public humiliation. I needed Royce to find 1 camera. Just 1. Because watching a cheater discover he's been caught is good. Watching a cheater discover he's been caught but not knowing the full extent of his exposure? That's art. That's poetry. That's justice with a bow on top. So I waited. Adjusted 1 camera to make it slightly more visible. Just a tiny red light, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. But he'd be looking for it. And Tuesday, October 7th, I made sure he'd be looking for it. I texted him at noon. "Coming home early today. Need to talk about something important." Then I drove to Starbucks, met Patricia, ordered my overpriced coffee that was cheaper than therapy and more effective, opened the app on my phone, and watched the show begin. Best $12 I ever spent. Watching Royce panic was better than anything Netflix could offer, better than any true crime documentary, better than reality TV. This was premium content, and I had front row seats. He found the camera at 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was watching the timestamp on my phone while Patricia reviewed her notes about asset division and custody arrangements. She had color-coded tabs. I loved her. Simone had just left. Wednesday schedule, right on time, very professional. And Royce was doing his usual cleanup routine. Spraying Febreze like he worked for their marketing department. Fluffing couch pillows with the dedication of a hotel housekeeper. Checking for evidence like he was dismantling a crime scene. Really thorough. If only he put this much effort into our marriage. He walked past our wedding photo on the mantle, the one where we both looked young and stupid and in love, emphasis on stupid. And that's when he saw it. The tiny red blinking light behind the frame. His face went through 5 stages of grief in under 10 seconds. Confusion, recognition, panic, terror, and finally, my personal favorite, complete psychological breakdown. It was like watching a time-lapse of a man realizing his entire life is about to implode. Beautiful. Poetic. Chef's kiss. No. No, 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 no. He grabbed the frame, yanked it off the wall like it personally offended him. And there it was. Camera number 7, in all its wireless glory, staring back at him like a tiny electronic judge and jury. He dropped the frame. Glass shattered everywhere. Very dramatic. Very soap opera. I half expected a commercial break. Then he did exactly what I predicted he'd do, because cheaters are nothing if not predictable. He started searching for more. "Marin!" he screamed at the empty house like I was hiding in a closet waiting to jump out. "How long have these been here?" I took a sip of my macchiato. Savored it. This moment deserved to be appreciated. Patricia glanced at my screen and raised an eyebrow in what I can only describe as professional admiration mixed with mild concern. "He's spiraling," she observed, making another note with her expensive pen. "Probably cost more than the cameras. This helps us. Consciousness of guilt. Keep recording." Oh, I was recording. All 18 cameras were recording. The beautiful thing about a panicked cheater is they forget to be smart. Not that Royce was ever particularly smart, but panic really brings out the worst in people. Or the best, depending on your perspective. Royce was tearing through the house like a man possessed, finding cameras I'd planted like the world's worst Easter eggs. Except instead of candy, he was finding evidence of his own terrible life choices. Kitchen vase. Found it. Looked personally betrayed by a fake flower arrangement. Bookshelf in his office. Found it. Knocked over 3 books he'd never read. The irony. Bedroom smoke detector. Found it. Had to get a chair to reach it. Very dedicated. Each discovery made him more frantic. By the time he found the one in his trophy, had to shake it really hard, almost broke it, would have been poetic if it shattered. He was genuinely hyperventilating. Like, medical emergency level breathing. Should I call 911? Nah. What did you see? He shouted at camera number 12, which was still recording from the living room corner, capturing his complete meltdown in beautiful high definition. Marin, if you're watching this, I laughed. Couldn't help it. Patricia gave me a look that said, professional composure, please. But even she was fighting a smile. Her lips were doing that thing where you're trying really hard not to laugh, but your face is betraying you. My phone buzzed. Text from Royce. Where are you? We need to talk. Now. The entitlement. Even while panicking, still trying to give orders. Sir, you lost ordering privileges approximately 3 affairs ago. I typed back. At Starbucks. Why? Everything okay? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. The dots of a man trying to figure out how to dig himself out of a hole when he's already hit bedrock. Finally. Come home. Please. Give me an hour. I replied. Traffic. There was no traffic. I was 8 minutes away. But I wanted him to marinate in his panic for a while longer. Let him find a few more cameras. Let him wonder exactly how much footage I had. Let him sweat. Literally. The man was sweating through his shirt. You could see it on camera. Gorgeous. Patricia closed her folder with the satisfaction of someone who knows they're about to win big. You're enjoying this too much. Is that legally problematic? No. Just observing. Professionally. She paused. Off the record? This is the most organized evidence collection I've seen in 15 years of divorce law. You could teach a class. Surveillance 101. When your husband's a walking red flag. I'd take that class, she said, and I believed her. She pulled out another document, because this woman came prepared like she was going to war. So we've established adultery with evidence. The fact that one party is his brother's wife adds complexity to the family dynamics but strengthens your position. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but this level of betrayal, especially the sister-in-law situation, plays well if we need it for custody or asset division. Judges are human. They have feelings about this kind of thing. I want the house, I said, non-negotiable, and primary custody. He can have supervised visitation until the girls are old enough to decide for themselves, which, based on Tessa's personality, will be immediately. And she'll choose me. The cameras are legal, Patricia continued, like she was checking boxes on a winning lottery ticket. Illinois is a one-party consent state for recording in your own home. You own the house jointly, you had reasonable suspicion of infidelity, and you didn't record audio in areas with expectation of privacy like bathrooms. We're solid. Fort Knox solid. I was very careful about that, I said, because I'm petty, not a pervert. There's a line. No bathroom cameras. I have standards. She smiled. Actually smiled. Patricia Landry, destroyer of bad husbands, smiled at me. I like you, Marin. Most of my clients are either too emotional or too vindictive. You're strategic. That's refreshing. You're like a chess player who's been planning this checkmate for weeks. 12 years of managing a household and 2 kids, I said. You learn to plan ahead. Also, I'm really good at Tetris. Same skill set. My phone buzzed again. Royce, please come home. I can explain everything. I showed Patricia the text. She photographed it with her phone faster than a tourist at the Grand Canyon. Evidence of admission. Keep him talking. Don't engage emotionally. Let him dig his own grave. Oh, I'm going to hand him the shovel, I said, and maybe a headstone. Pre-engraved. Here lies Royce Thibault. He chose poorly. But here's where things got interesting. While I was watching Royce destroy our living room looking for cameras like he was on a deranged scavenger hunt, another notification popped up. Email. From Marcus. Subject line. We need to talk about Simone. I opened it, read it twice. Looked at Patricia like I'd just won the lottery and found out there was a second lottery. My brother-in-law knows, I said quietly. The email was short and devastating. Marin, can we meet somewhere private? Not our houses. I found something on Simone's phone. I think our spouses are having an affair. I need to know if you've noticed anything. Timestamp. Sent 20 minutes ago. Well, Patricia said, leaning back in her chair with the expression of someone watching a plot twist in a really good movie. That's a development. That's a whole development. I typed back immediately, because opportunity was knocking, and I was opening that door with enthusiasm. Woodridge Public Library. Meeting room B, 30 minutes. Come alone. His response was instant. I'll be there. I looked at Patricia. Change of plans. I need to coordinate with Marcus before confronting Royce. If we're both going nuclear on them, we should do it together. Maximum damage. Synchronized destruction. Smart, she agreed, nodding like a proud teacher. Unified front. Twice the damage. Double the humiliation. I'll come with you. Witness to the conversation in case we need it later. Also, I want to see this. 25 minutes later, I was sitting in a library meeting room that smelled like old books and broken marriages, my new favorite scent. Watching Marcus walk through the door. He looked terrible, like he'd been crying, like his world had just imploded, like he'd found out his wife was sleeping with his brother. Which, fair, because he had. Welcome to the club, Marcus. Membership fees are steep, but the revenge is worth it. Marin, he said, sitting down heavily like gravity had personally betrayed him. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to believe it, but I have video evidence, I interrupted, because we didn't have time for slow revelations. Multiple encounters. In my house. Dating back 3 weeks of confirmed footage, possibly months before that. His face crumpled like a paper bag. How long have you known? I suspected for months. Confirmed it September 1st. I've been collecting evidence since then. 18 cameras. Every room except the bathrooms because I have boundaries. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking like he had hypothermia, and showed me screenshots. Text messages between Simone and Royce. Explicit. Detailed. Planning their next meeting. Complaining about their respective spouses like we were the problem. Discussing how boring and clueless Marcus and I were. Oh, we're boring. We're boring. The audacity. The sheer audacity. She called me boring, Marcus said, voice breaking like he was narrating the saddest documentary ever made. Said I was adequate but uninspiring in bed. They were laughing about us, making jokes. I was a punchline in my own marriage. I felt something shift in my chest. Not sadness anymore. Not even anger. Just cold, calculated fury. The kind of fury that plans things. Methodical fury. Spreadsheet fury. How do you want to handle this? I asked. He looked up, confused. What do you mean? I mean, we can do this separately. 2 divorces, 2 scandals. Family torn apart gradually. Slow burn. Or we can coordinate. Make it count. Make sure everyone knows exactly what they did. Scorched earth. Full nuclear option. I'm talking Hiroshima levels of devastation. Patricia cleared her throat delicately. I should mention that coordinating revenge isn't technically legal advice I can give. Then stop giving advice and start taking notes, I said. Marcus straightened up. Something changed in his expression. The sadness shifted into something harder. Something with edges. What are you thinking? Family dinner, I said slowly, the plan forming as I spoke, like I was channeling some ancient god of petty revenge. This Sunday. Your parents' house. The whole family comes to Sunday dinner there once a month, right? This Sunday is the monthly dinner, Marcus confirmed, and I could see the realization dawning on his face. Mom's already planning the menu, probably making that pot roast I pretend to like. Perfect. We go, we act normal, we smile, we eat pot roast. Then during dessert we play a little home video. Greatest hits compilation from my security footage. Just the highlights. Let everyone see what Royce and Simone have been doing while we've been playing happy family. In front of the whole family? Marcus looked shocked, then thoughtful. Then slowly, deliberately, his face transformed into something resembling a smile. A scary smile. A smile with teeth. Mom will lose her mind. She'll absolutely lose her mind. Your mother has spent 12 years telling me I'm not good enough for her precious son, I said, and years of passive-aggressive Thanksgiving dinners fueled my next words. I'm not elegant enough, not sophisticated enough, not worthy of the Thibault name. Meanwhile, her precious son has been running a cheating operation out of our house with his own brother's wife. I think Lorraine needs a reality check. A big one. With visual aids. Patricia was typing on her phone. I'm not hearing this conversation. Legally, I'm not here. But hypothetically, if someone were to publicly expose infidelity at a family gathering, it wouldn't affect divorce proceedings negatively. Just making that observation. From a purely theoretical standpoint. Sunday is 4 days away, Marcus said, and I could see him getting on board with this plan in real time. Can you edit the footage by then? I can have it ready by tomorrow, I said, because I'm nothing if not efficient. With timestamps, locations, and a very tasteful soundtrack. Nothing explicit, obviously, just enough to make the point crystal clear. Think Ken Burns' documentary, but about betrayal. I'll bring the projector, Marcus said, and we shook hands like we were signing a treaty. Tell them I want to show family photos. Mom loves that stuff. She'll cry. She always cries at family photos. She'll cry at these too, I said. Different reasons. An alliance formed in a library meeting room between two betrayed spouses who were done being the punchline of someone else's joke. This was poetic. This was beautiful. This was going to be spectacular. Patricia stood up, gathering her things. I'm going to pretend this meeting was about custody arrangements. Carry on with your completely legal and not at all coordinated plan that I definitely didn't hear. I drove home. Royce's car was in the driveway. He was sitting on the front steps, head in his hands, looking like his life was ending. It was. I parked, grabbed my purse, and walked up the driveway with the calm confidence of someone who held all the cards, knew exactly how to play them, and was about to win the whole game. Hi, honey, I said cheerfully, like I'd just come back from a normal afternoon of errands. You wanted to talk? Royce looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, and for a split second, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Then I remembered the excess lingerie receipt and the feeling passed. Funny how that works. Marin, he started, voice all wobbly and pathetic. Save it, I said, walking past him into the house like he was a piece of lawn furniture I barely noticed. We'll talk inside. The neighbors don't need a show. Yet. The show was coming Sunday. But he didn't need to know that. Anticipation makes everything better. He followed me into the kitchen like a kicked puppy. A puppy who'd been cheating on his puppy wife with 2 other puppies. Actually, that metaphor got weird. Moving on. I set my purse on the counter, poured myself a glass of water, staying hydrated during emotional warfare is important, and turned to face him with the calm demeanor of someone who'd spent 3 weeks preparing for this exact moment. I was ready. I was Meryl Streep. I was Daniel Day-Lewis. I was acting. How many cameras are there? He asked, voice hoarse from all that earlier screaming. Does it matter? Marin, please, I can explain. Explain what, exactly? I tilted my head like I was genuinely curious. Which part needs explaining? The part where you've been cheating on me for months? The part where you brought them to our house? Where our daughters live and sleep and eat breakfast? Or the part where one of them is your brother's wife? I'm just trying to understand which piece of this dumpster fire you think has a reasonable explanation. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Good. Emotional damage. You know about Simone. I know about everything, Royce. That's what cameras do. They record things. It's literally their entire job description, and they're very good at it. Unlike some people's commitment to monogamy. It's not what you think? Really? I laughed. Actually laughed. Because I think you've been running a rotating schedule of affairs like you're managing a sales territory. Tuesdays and Thursdays with the blonde whose name I don't even know. Wednesdays and Fridays with your sister-in-law. That about right? Am I close? Do I win a prize for accuracy? His face went gray. Like actual gray. The color of sidewalk concrete. How long have you been watching? Long enough. I took a sip of water. Hydration. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move into the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you're going to sign whatever papers my attorney sends over. You're not going to fight me on the house, on custody, or on anything else. Because if you do, every second of that footage goes to your boss, your clients, and anyone else I can think of. LinkedIn, Facebook, maybe I'll start a YouTube channel. Cheaters Gone Wild Suburban Edition. I bet it would go viral. Understand? He nodded slowly. Defeated. Broken. Beautiful. What about Simone? What about her? Are you going to tell Marcus? I smiled. Let him wonder. Let him stew. We'll see how Sunday goes. Sunday? Family dinner? He looked confused, which was his natural state apparently. Why would you want to? Because we're going to keep up appearances until I'm ready to stop, I said sweetly. And you're going to smile and play the devoted husband. Because if you don't, I'll send every second of that footage to your boss, your entire office, and I'll CC the CEO for good measure. That company card you used for hotel rooms? Yeah, I have those receipts too. Literal receipts. I'm very thorough. Understand? He understood. The next 3 days were the most surreal of my life. Royce moved into the guest room, telling Tessa and Cleo he had a cold and didn't want to get me sick. The girls bought it completely, because children are trusting and innocent and don't yet understand that adults are capable of weaponized lying. Meanwhile, I spent every free moment editing security footage into a 12-minute video that would make Martin Scorsese jealous. I added timestamps, locations, a soundtrack, nothing too on the nose, just some instrumental music that said, "Your life is about to end," without being obvious about it. Marcus and I texted constantly, coordinating our plan like we were planning D-Day, which, in a way, we were. D-Day for destruction. He confirmed the projector, I confirmed the video. We agreed on timing, right after dessert, when everyone was comfortable and trapped by social obligation and too much food to move quickly. Friday afternoon, Patricia reviewed the video in her office, watching it on her laptop with the intensity of a film critic at Cannes. "It's perfect," she said, though she looked slightly concerned, like a parent watching their child do something technically legal but definitely inadvisable. "You're sure you want to do this publicly? It'll be nuclear. Hiroshima, Chernobyl, choose your disaster metaphor. That's the point. Your in-laws will never forgive you." "They never liked me anyway," I said, shrugging. "At least now they'll have a valid reason instead of just, 'She's not good enough for our son.' Now it'll be, 'She publicly humiliated our son.' Much more specific. I prefer specificity." She closed her laptop. "Well, you've covered your legal bases. The footage is admissible in divorce proceedings. Illinois allows fault-based elements to be considered in asset division, even though it's technically no fault. This level of betrayal, especially involving family, will play in your favor. Judges hate this kind of thing. Music to my ears. Better than Beethoven." Sunday arrived. Perfect autumn day, crisp October air, leaves turning golden like the universe was setting the scene for maximum dramatic impact. The kind of day that belongs in a Hallmark movie, not a family implosion. But here we were. Royce and I drove separately. I insisted, claiming I had errands after. Really, I just couldn't stand being in a car with him. The girls rode with me, chattering about school and friends, completely oblivious to the fact that their family was about to implode in approximately 2 hours. Ignorance is bliss. Enjoy it while it lasts, girls. His parents lived in Wheaton, in one of those old Victorian houses that screamed generational wealth and judgment. His mother, Lorraine, never Mom, always Lorraine, because God forbid we be informal, answered the door wearing pearls and disappointment. Her usual outfit. "Marin," she said, voice cool enough to refrigerate food. "You're late." "Traffic," I lied smoothly. We were 3 minutes late. 3 minutes. Where should I put this pie? I'd brought apple pie from Costco. Store-bought. I knew it would irritate her. Small victories matter. Death by 1,000 tiny passive-aggressive cuts. I'd learned from the master after all. The whole family was there. Marcus and Simone with their boys, Theo and Liam, Royce's younger sister Petra with her husband and toddler, who was currently screaming about something toddler-related. His father, Hugh, already halfway through his first scotch, which honestly seemed like a reasonable life choice. 16 people total, gathered in the formal dining room that probably cost more than my first car and my second car combined. Simone smiled at me across the table, that fake, saccharine smile she always used. The smile of someone who thinks they're getting away with something. "Marin, you look tired. Everything okay?" Oh, Simone. Sweet, stupid Simone. "Everything's perfect," I said, matching her energy with the precision of a sniper. "Never better, actually. Life is just wonderful. How are you? How's everything with you and Marcus?" Her smile faltered for just a second. "Good. We're great. Just great." Marcus caught my eye, gave me the tiniest nod. "Game on. Let's do this." Dinner was painful in that special way that family dinners are painful. Lorraine complained about the turkey being dry. It wasn't. It was perfect. She just likes complaining. Hugh lectured about politics like anyone asked. Petra talked about her toddler's developmental milestones like he was curing cancer instead of just learning to use a spoon. Royce sat next to me, pushing food around his plate, barely speaking, looking like a man at his own funeral. Accurate. Simone, on the other hand, was chatty. Extra chatty. Almost manic. She kept touching Marcus's arm, calling him honey, with the enthusiasm of a game show host, overcompensating so hard it was embarrassing to watch. "Lady, you're not fooling anyone. Except maybe Hugh, but he's on his third scotch." Finally, dessert. Pumpkin pie, apple pie, my Costco contribution sitting there like a middle finger made of pastry, coffee. Everyone settling in, getting comfortable. Marcus stood up. "Showtime." "Hey everyone, before we finish I wanted to share something. I put together a little video. Family memories, that kind of thing. Thought we could watch it together." Lorraine clapped her hands like a trained seal. "Oh, how lovely. Marcus, you're so thoughtful. So much better than store-bought pie." Was that directed at me? Absolutely. Did I care? Not even a little. "I try," Marcus said, wheeling out the projector he'd hidden in the hall closet earlier. "Marin actually helped me with some of the editing. She's really good with technology, very talented." All eyes turned to me. I smiled innocently, like butter wouldn't melt in my mouth, just happy to help with family projects. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life like a dragon waking up. Marcus plugged in his laptop, and the video started. Title card. Family Values, a Love Story. Oh, we'd workshopped that title. We were very proud of it. The timestamp appeared. Tuesday, September 9th, 2:17 p.m. The footage showed our living room. Empty at first. Then Royce entered with the blonde woman. They sat on the couch, started kissing. Lorraine gasped like someone had stabbed her. "What is this? What are we watching?" "Keep watching, Mom," Marcus said, voice ice cold, colder than her usual demeanor. "It gets better." The video cut to another timestamp. Wednesday, September 18th, 4:33 p.m. Same living room. Royce and Simone this time, drinking wine, my wine, laughing. The body language unmistakable even without audio. "Oh my God," Petra whispered, hand over her mouth. Simone stood up so fast her chair fell over with a crash. Turn it off right now." "Not yet," Marcus said calmly. "We're just getting to the good part. The character development is really strong in the second act." The video continued. Multiple timestamps, multiple encounters. Nothing explicit. I'd cut it carefully. We're not animals. But absolutely damning. The intimacy, the familiarity, the betrayal captured in glorious high definition. Every touch, every laugh, every moment of them thinking they'd gotten away with it. Royce tried to stand. "Dad, I can explain." "Sit down," Hugh said, voice like thunder. Like God himself was disappointed. "Watch what you've done. Watch all of it." The video ended with a final title card. Footage courtesy of Marin's home security system. Recorded September-October 2024. 18 cameras. 0 regrets. Silence. Complete, absolute, beautiful silence. The kind of silence that happens before an explosion. Then Lorraine turned to me, face contorted with fury, pearls practically vibrating with rage. You recorded them? In your own house? That's illegal. That's an invasion of privacy. That's… Actually, I said calmly, like I was discussing the weather. Illinois is a one-party consent state. My house, my cameras, completely legal. My attorney confirmed it. I have paperwork if you'd like to see it. Very thorough paperwork. You knew, she hissed at Marcus, redirecting her fury like a sprinkler system. You helped her with this humiliation. I found out 4 days ago, Marcus said, standing his ground. From Simone's text messages. She called me boring, Mom, said I was adequate but uninspiring. Meanwhile, she was sleeping with my brother in his wife's house, drinking their wine, using their bedroom. So yeah, Mom, I helped. And I'd do it again. I'd do it twice. Simone was crying, mascara running down her face like a sad raccoon. Marcus, please, it's not… Don't, he said, holding up a hand. Just don't. The boys are going to my parents' house tonight. You're not coming. We'll figure out custody later. But right now, you need to leave. This is insane. Simone looked around for support, found none. Everyone was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. Lorraine, Hugh, please. This is a misunderstanding. This is… a misunderstanding. I laughed. Actually laughed. Couldn't help it. You were sleeping with your husband's brother, in my house, while I was at PTA meetings listening to Karen from Elmhurst complain about fundraiser logistics. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice. Multiple choices. A whole series of choices. Royce finally spoke. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to… Get out, Hugh said quietly. Quietly was worse than yelling. Both of you, Royce, Simone, get out of my house. Now. Dad. Now. Not quiet anymore. They left. Simone sobbing, Royce pale and silent like a ghost. The door slammed behind them with the finality of a coffin closing. Lorraine turned to me, eyes blazing with enough fury to power a small city. You've destroyed this family. No, I said, standing up, gathering my purse, channeling every ounce of dignity I had. They destroyed it. I just provided the evidence, the documentation, the visual aids. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. You're cruel. I'm honest, I corrected. There's a difference. Girls, get your coats. We're going home. Tessa and Cleo, who'd been watching everything with wide eyes like they were at a really interesting movie, scrambled to follow me. They'd have questions later. So many questions. But right now, we were leaving. As we walked out, Marcus caught my arm. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you, I replied. In the car, Cleo asked from the back seat, Mom, what just happened? Grown-up problems, baby, I said, starting the engine. But everything's going to be okay, I promise. Better than okay. And for the first time in months, I actually believed it. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my back porch, in my house, because the divorce settlement gave me everything I asked for and then some. Watching Tessa and Cleo play in the yard, and I'm thinking about how much can change when you stop accepting the narrative someone else writes for you. Plot twist. You get to write your own ending. Who knew? The divorce was finalized in March. Quick, clean, and absolutely brutal for Royce. Turns out, when you have video evidence of sustained infidelity involving a family member, judges aren't particularly sympathetic to your requests for equal asset division. They're especially unsympathetic when you also use the company card for affair hotels. That really sealed the deal. I got the house, obviously. 70% of our savings, which felt fair considering I'd managed them while he was managing his affair schedule. His entire 401k because Illinois judges don't love cheaters. Primary custody of the girls, because Tessa literally told the judge, I want to live with Mom, Dad's kind of a mess right now. Out of the mouths of babes. And child support that makes my accountant smile every month, which is saying something because accountants don't smile easily. Royce got a 1-bedroom apartment in Bolingbrook. You know, the place where dreams go to die, and supervised visitation every other weekend. Last I heard, he's working at a different logistics company making about 40% less than before. Turns out, his old employer wasn't thrilled about the whole company card for personal hotels situation. Something about misuse of corporate resources and violation of ethics policy. Who could have predicted that consequences would happen? Not Royce, apparently. Simone and Marcus's divorce was even messier, which I didn't think was possible, but Simone really went for the gold in the making everything worse Olympics. Marcus got their house too. We both got houses. We should start a support group. People who got houses after their spouses were terrible. And primary custody. Simone moved to a studio apartment in Lyle and apparently works at a real estate office now, trying to rebuild her life one overpriced suburban home at a time. The irony of her selling dream homes while her own marriage exploded is not lost on me. Her boys, Theo and Liam, chose to stay with Marcus primarily. Teenagers are old enough to make those decisions, and apparently, they weren't particularly forgiving about Mom's extracurricular activities with Uncle Royce. Kids these days. So judgmental about infidelity. The family fracture was absolute, complete, total. Hiroshima had nothing on the Thibault family post-video premiere. Lorraine tried to blame me for exactly 3 weeks before Hugh, surprisingly, shockingly, shut that down. Told her that I didn't create the problem, I just exposed it, and maybe she should focus on the fact that her son destroyed 2 marriages instead of shooting the messenger. I almost liked Hugh after that. Almost. They don't invite me to family gatherings anymore, which is fine because I was only going for the free food anyway, and it wasn't even that good. But they do send birthday cards to Tessa and Cleo, so there's that. Progress. Baby steps. Maybe by the time the girls are 30, we'll be able to be in the same room without tension. Maybe. Marcus and I stayed friends. Not romantic. God, no. We've both had enough of the Thibault family drama to last several lifetimes. But we text occasionally. Trauma bonding is real, apparently. He's dating someone new, a teacher from Oak Park who has no connection to our suburban nightmare and thinks our story is wild and like a movie. He seems happy, lighter, like someone removed a backpack full of rocks from his shoulders. As for me, that blog I started, Receipts and Revenge, actually took off. Like, really took off. Turns out, America has an endless appetite for stories about surveillance, betrayal, and satisfying endings. Who knew? Everyone, apparently. Everyone knew. I monetized it, started a YouTube channel reading stories from other people who'd caught their spouses doing ridiculous things, and somehow accidentally created a whole career out of my divorce. I'm making more money now than I ever did as a stay-at-home mom, which was $0, so low bar, but actually more than Royce makes at his new job, which feels poetic. Karma isn't just a concept, it's a paycheck. Every week, women message me asking for advice about their own situations. Men too, sometimes. I tell them all the same thing. Document everything, trust your gut, and never let someone convince you that your reality isn't real. Also, Best Buy has great deals on security cameras. 18 cameras might seem like overkill, but is it really? Is it? Tessa handled the divorce better than I expected. She's in therapy. We all are. Therapy is basically our new hobby. And she actually told me last month that she respects me more now than before. You didn't just take it, Mom, she said. You did something about it. You didn't just cry and accept it. High praise from an 11-year-old who's not easily impressed and has opinions about everything. Cleo still asks when Daddy's coming home sometimes. Those moments hurt like a physical wound. But she's adjusting. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget to be. She's also started asking if she can have a camera in her room to catch the tooth fairy. Not quite the lesson I was going for, but sure, kid. Sure. The cameras are still up, by the way. All 18 of them. Not because I'm paranoid. Okay, maybe a little paranoid. But because they're actually a really good security system. Plus, they remind me every day that I trusted my instincts, I took action, and I refused to be gaslit into believing I was crazy. The blinking red lights are like tiny victory flags. People ask me if I regret the public confrontation, if I would do it differently. The answer is no. Could I have handled it privately? Sure. Quiet divorce, sealed records, keep the family intact for appearances. We could have all pretended everything was fine at Christmas. Very civilized. Very mature. But here's what I learned. Keeping up appearances is what allowed the whole situation to happen in the first place. Everyone in that family knew Royce was problematic. His mother knew he was a cheater. He'd done it in previous relationships. Everyone just conveniently forgot to mention that before the wedding. They just expected me to handle it quietly, gracefully, like a good suburban wife. Smile and endure. That's the Thibault way. The public confrontation wasn't cruelty. It was honesty. It was refusing to be complicit in my own humiliation. It was saying, no, actually, we're not going to pretend this is fine. Last week, I ran into the blonde woman at Target. Because of course I did. Target is where all suburban drama happens. Recognized her immediately, even though we'd never officially met. She saw me, froze like a deer in headlights, then tried to hide behind a display of throw pillows. Like throw pillows would save her. I walked right up to her because I'm not 17 anymore and I don't do awkward avoidance. Hey, quick question. Did he ever tell you he was married? She went pale. Legitimately pale. I didn't know about you until later, I swear. I ended it as soon as I found out. When did you find out? When he called me, panicking, said his wife had been recording everything. He was freaking out. That's when I realized, yeah. I nodded. Interesting. Okay, thanks for the honesty. I'm really sorry, she added quietly, looking at her shoes like they were fascinating. I wouldn't have, if I'd known. I believe you, I said. And weirdly, I did. She seemed genuine. He's really good at lying. Trust me, I had 12 years of practice not catching on. You had no chance. She left. I bought my groceries. The world kept turning. Life went on. Here's the thing about betrayal. It changes you fundamentally, but you get to choose how. It can make you bitter, suspicious, closed off, unable to trust anyone ever again. Or it can make you stronger, smarter, more aware of your own worth and what you won't tolerate. I chose option 2. Highly recommend. My life now isn't what I planned at 26 when I married Royce with stars in my eyes and stupidity in my heart. It's not the suburban dream with the perfect family and the white picket fence and the golden retriever. But it's honest. It's mine. And nobody's writing the script except me. I'm the director now. Executive producer. Lead actress. The whole production. Tessa just scored a goal in the backyard soccer game she's playing with Cleo. She's laughing, triumphant, completely present in this moment. That's what I'm building now. Not a performance, not an image for the neighbors, just a real life, with real problems, real solutions, and real joy. Messy and imperfect and mine. They say what happens at home stays at home. But honey, that was before Ring cameras became everyone's favorite marriage counselor, and before women like me decided we were done being silent about what happens behind closed doors. That was before 18 wireless cameras and a YouTube channel. The truth might hurt, but secrets hurt more. And staying silent? That hurts most of all. I'm done with secrets, done with silence, done with accepting less than I deserve. And honestly, I've never been happier. Turns out the best revenge isn't just living well. It's living honestly, loudly, and on your own terms. And maybe installing a really good security system.